Hello there.
The sequel to the Hollywood blockbuster Godzilla vs. Kong is set to be filmed in Queensland. The project, which is the next instalment in the Monsterverse franchise, will be shot in a range of locations across the state's southeast. It's expected to deliver an economic boost of more than $79 million and create more than 1,000 jobs. The Premier has labelled it a coup for the film industry.
The Godzilla vs. Kong sequel has been confirmed, and it is amazing news. Legendary's restored faith in the Monsterverse post-Godzilla vs. Kong is something that brings a tear to my eye. In all seriousness, to this day, I find it to be a huge feat that we have a series of American-made Godzilla films, and now a whole American Godzilla cinematic universe that sets its roots in what Toho has built for over 65 years. But as we set our sights on the future and wonder what comes next, Legendary plans and plots the next film, and as bits and pieces leak out of what exactly the future plans are for the Monsterverse, we can begin to see that all sights seem to be set on Kong, with many news outlets reporting just a few short months ago that indeed Legendary was planning a Son of Kong film. But is that the sequel that's set to shoot this year, or is that an entirely different project? Is Kong really the future of the Monsterverse, or is a major villain like Gigan or Space Godzilla on the way for an inevitable Godzilla sequel? There's so many questions, so many possibilities, and in this video I'm going to show you all the evidence we have so far of what exactly this next Monsterverse project is. So with that being said, if you're new here and enjoy the Monsterverse content, then click that red subscribe button to stay up to date with all my hot takes, and let's get into the video.
Atomic Fair.
Now, we don't have a whole ton of news or information or really anything on what exactly this Godzilla vs. Kong sequel is, but we do know one thing, and that is the production is expected to inject more than double the $36.5 million that Godzilla vs. Kong brought to Australia, and apparently is a very welcome boost to their economy, etc, etc. But what that means is that this movie is probably going to be bigger than Godzilla vs. Kong. Does it mean it's going to have double the budget? I don't really know. I really don't think so, but maybe they're going to go, you know, for some destroy all monsters type movie, and maybe this will be a Godzilla vs. Kong team up movie. Who really knows? But there's two prevalent theories right now as to what this Monsterverse movie is, and the first theory is of course the Son of Kong movie that is confirmed to be in development, you know, by many big news outlets. Now, the other heavy rumor for the movie is that it's going to be a direct sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, what does that mean? To me, that would probably mean that Godzilla and Kong would both feature in the movie again, and maybe they would team up to fight some kind of major villain. And inevitably, even if this is, you know, a Son of Kong movie and Godzilla's not in the movie at all, which would really be a huge shame. I would hope that Son of Kong would be a separate project, really. But there's going to be a villain in the movie either way, so we're going to go ahead and talk about what this villain could be. And there are just so many possibilities, but I think we can narrow it down to a few major ones. Now, of course, the first one would be somebody like Mecca King Ghidorah. Now, Mecca King Ghidorah is a villain that was kind of, sort of, maybe in a way set up at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters, where they do show King Ghidorah's rotting head, which ended up becoming the brain to Mechagodzilla. But of course, the next step, or maybe the next evolution from Mechagodzilla, would be either a Mechagodzilla 2.0 or a Mecha King Ghidorah. Now, personal opinion, is this a villain I would want to see? Not really too sure, to be honest. I want to see a new, fresh villain, unless they're gonna like do some destroy all monsters or something where they just, or like Godzilla Final Wars or some kind of endgame type story where they build up to this massive all-out monster brawl where you see all the villains. Then okay, bring in Mecha King Ghidorah, bring in, you know, bring in freaking Mechagodzilla 2.0, bring in a whole slew of villains. But if we're isolating it down to just a couple villains, I would like to see something new. With that being said, I would think another big possibility, honestly, would be Gigan. And the reason I say that is because Gigan's anniversary is coming up, and Toho has a short film coming up featuring Gigan with a totally new design. Gigan was featured in concept art from Godzilla King of the Monsters, so we have a lot of evidence here that could support a possible Gigan appearance in a Godzilla sequel. Now, Gigan is personally a fan favorite of mine. I would love to see him as a villain, but I don't think he's big enough to be the only villain of the movie. Now, maybe you could have a character like Gigan who could be sort of built off of, you know, the claws of the Mudos and just be this sort of kind of monstrous Frankenstein type creature, you know? But I think a good main villain for the next Godzilla project would definitely be Space Godzilla, and I think it's a huge possibility. There was the rumor a few years ago that their post-credit scene of Godzilla vs. Kong was going to feature a call from outer space, sort of hinting that an extraterrestrial threat was coming. So Space Godzilla is a huge possibility, I think. And that is something I would really love to see. I think Space Godzilla would bring a really cool dynamic to the Monsterverse. And on top of that, it would force the Monsterverse to go cosmic. So that's another really exciting possibility for me, and one that I personally hope we see. Now, the next major possibility for a huge villain in the Monsterverse would definitely be Destroyer. Now, the reason I suggest Destroyer as a major villain for the Monsterverse is, of course, because he's one of Godzilla's most iconic and powerful villains of all time, but also because there is already precedent for Destroyer to exist in the Monsterverse, and that is the Oxygen Destroyer that killed the original Godzilla. Now, Destroyer's origin is, of course, that the Oxygen Destroyer that killed Godzilla simultaneously creates the little crustacean creatures that become Destroyer. Now, the Monsterverse could take a slightly different route on his origin, but nevertheless, Destroyer is a major villain that eventually should pop up in the Monsterverse. Now, the last possibility for a Godzilla villain that I would like to see pop up in this next Godzilla vs. Kong sequel, Godzilla movie, Kong, whatever it is, would be Biollante. And I think it's I do think it's a possibility. All these villains are honestly the most likely candidates, I think, to pop up in the next Monsterverse movie. Biollante, of course, could be easily explained in the Monsterverse, especially with the existence of the Hollow Earth. Many of these titans, many of these original Toho Godzilla villains could be explained away in the Hollow Earth, especially villains like Megalon and Gearus. Some of these more classic villains could already exist inside the Hollow Earth. But nevertheless, one thing I can say about the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel, whatever it is, it will explore the Hollow Earth much more than we saw Godzilla vs. Kong. I think Godzilla vs. Kong was the opener to the Hollow Earth, and I think the next movie will have a huge portion of it take place in the Hollow Earth, and I'd really love to see some kind of Destroy All Monsters Godzilla movie, or just lead up to some sort of, Godzilla Endgame type event, Final Wars type event that, maybe takes place in the Hollow Earth or something like that. But what do you guys think about this Godzilla vs. Kong sequel? Comment your thoughts below. Legendary is keeping details wrapped tight, and it's kind of interesting because if they're about to shoot the movie in Australia, that means they already have the script going, they already have the plot, and none of this information has leaked out yet, but I'm sure it will. And when it does, I will be right here to report on it. So be sure to subscribe if you enjoy my content. And with all that being said, that's all I have for this video, guys. So until the next one, be safe and stay well. Bye-bye.